Okay.
on?
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Traffic and Transportation Commission for February 17th, 2025. We'll go ahead and get started with roll call. Go to Commissioner Varnell.
Here.
Commissioner Littlefield.
Present.
Go to Commissioner Carnes.
Here.
Go to Commissioner Martinez.
Here.
I'd like the records to note that he has signed his oath. He's brand new with us, so he's the new guy. And we go to Commissioner Wynn.
Here.
And Commissioner George is not here, and Commissioner Cornett.
Here.
Okay. Can I have a motion concerning the approval of the Traffic and Transportation Commission meeting minutes for January 24th, 2025?
Motion for approval.
And that came from,
Varnell.
I know, I hear it over here, and it's because the speaker's over here. Okay, motion to approve by Commissioner Varnell. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, a second by Commissioner Littlefield. Do we have any talk about the meeting minutes? Okay, motion to approve the meeting minutes by Commissioner Varnell, seconded by Commissioner Littlefield. We're ready for our votes. We're standing by. Oops, maybe it's me. Did everybody else vote? No? Okay. No, not me. Sometimes it is. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? No opposed. Okay, so the motion passed with all 7 in favor. You abstained?
Well, I wasn't here last night.
Well, you still can vote. Because you watched it on the news. Okay, we go to item 3, reports from Traffic Services Division in the Counselor's Office. Staff?
All right, you've got our standard monthly report for you. You can see since the last meeting, there was one more signal added to the unfunded approved signals list, and that was the intersection signal at Mustang Road and Northwest 6th Street. I've got our standard report on speed humps and other abatement items that have been installed under the ASAP program. Just to let you know, at this point in time, there have been 35 speed cushions installed under the program to date, 4 driver speed feedback signs, and 6 street alerts. And then beyond that, we just have our standard administrative report on yield signs, parking controls, and turn restrictions. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on any aspect of the Section 3 reports.
The amount of money, that $95,000, did it transfer over?
Yes.
I can't recall
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Previously, we had been keeping a running balance on the expenditures, but that's not something that we've decided to continue because it doesn't really have much bearing on it. It was, for the first year of the program, It was good to be able to see how it gave you a good sense as to the amount of monies that were being spent over the course of the year, but from this point going forward, there's not really a lot of necessity in order to give you a
No, that's fine.
to-the-penny breakdown.
So basically, that $50,000 is about gone, that
It is.
startup.
Right.
And now we're into the $95,000 that the council
That's correct.
put against this. All right, very good. And then also, I wasn't here, but I watched the presentation on the something zero.
Vision Zero.
Vision Zero. And I thought that was very good. And I want to thank you for the work you did on it. And looking forward to seeing what comes about to try to get to 0 deaths out on the streets. So that's good stuff. Okay. Anybody else have anything up, staff?
Stuart, on the traffic signals, didn't there used to be an item or a memo on the bottom that talked about which ones were funded under items?
There had been a memo. The reason why that no longer appears is because the 4 traffic signals that were on that list have all been funded, and so at this point in time, there's not really a need to continue them. So that's the reason. The last time they appeared at the, I think at the last month's meeting, or maybe the meeting before, that was the last time they were reported on, but since they've been funded and are getting ready to head out for construction, there's not a need to maintain them on this particular list.
Right, and right now, out of all of them, there are none that are funded.
That's correct.
Okay, that's why it's not listed.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, anything else for staff? Okay, Counselor, anything? Nothing, okay. All right, we'll move, there's nothing on the consent docket, so we'll go for items for individual consideration. Chelsea Banks, President, Uptown 23rd Street District Association, traffic signal at North Hudson Avenue and Northwest 23rd Street. Anybody here to speak on that item? Yes, ma'am. And yes, sir. So if I can have your name and address, and you'll have up to 5 minutes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Chelsea Banks, as above mentioned. My address is 112 Northwest 25th Street, so just a couple blocks off of the area we're talking about now. I got a chance to look at the information that you all are being presented today, so I do want to address that while the data in this packet does not support a signalized traffic crossing right here on 23rd, I want to bring my personal anecdotal feedback and just experience on 23rd and offer that as maybe a reason why we as a community have sought for a traffic signal to be added here. So over the last several years, it's probably been about 5 years that we've been working really closely with the City of Oklahoma City regarding the 23rd Street enhancement that is coming down 23rd Street. So this started originally as a 2017 GO bond, voter-approved GO bond that said, hey, we need some attention on 23rd Street. This is not really doing it. We got to figure something else out. You know, pandemic slowed a lot of things down, whatever. All that to say we're here today, and we've finally received our final plans from the City of Oklahoma City. Through the process of getting these plans created, we also recognized that we were budget limited. So over the course of seeing the things that needed to be added and changed on 23rd Street, we reached out through ACOG to the city, or through the city, received a state grant to help us complete the project. So this project will actually be moving forward to Oklahoma's Department of Transportation after this conversation is happening. So there's a much broader conversation on behalf of 23rd Street and the stakeholders there that is happening. So I just wanted to give a little bit of context for this longer fight that we've been encountering on 23rd in regards not only to the traffic that's happening there, but the pedestrian safety that we've been focused on for quite a long time. I myself actually was hit by a car on 23rd Street when I was crossing 23rd Street at a signalized location. And that is what prompted the addition of a LPI, a lead pedestrian interval. Commissioner Cornett was really great at helping advocate for that, so thank you very much. So I think mostly I'm here just to provide some of that context and some of the background reasoning as to why, even though the data says, hey, you know, it doesn't warrant these things, I would like to also point out that this data is through the lens of moving cars down 23rd Street. I am speaking to you through the lens of a pedestrian who lives, works, walks, and frequents this neighborhood and this intersection regularly. And from that position, I can tell you that just in my time living here, the four corners at this intersection are now active. They haven't been. It's been a long time since they were all active. Cheevers has been holding it down obviously for decades, and Tucker's across the street has been a great staple. But now we also have the Baskin Robbins, Dunkin' Donuts, and recently moved in Chiba Hut. Prior to any of this development happening in the last several years, all of that was just surface parking. So there was not activity happening right there at this intersection. I have also spoken frequently to the Jefferson Park Neighborhood Association, which is just to the north, so to the left of the Dunkin' Donuts area. And we have a lot of issues just with this area in general because the road at Hudson is pretty poor. It's in poor condition. And there's a lot of parking that happens to frequent Cheevers and to some of the other things that are around this area. So the Neighborhood Association has been looking at this very specific intersection for a while because they live here, and it's a big place where traffic congestion happens just by the nature of the restaurants that are servicing people there. So I do know on that note, one of the feedback, just anecdotal feedbacks that I've heard is like, wouldn't it be nice if we could just cross the street to go get a burger at Tucker's? These sorts of things. So people are in these neighborhoods wanting to cross the street at 23rd Street right here, and there's also so much more traffic that hasn't been here before. In the process of getting our streetscape re-envisioned for the future of 23rd, we're getting upwards of 10-foot sidewalks, wide sidewalks along 23rd Street in this area, which is a huge improvement. We currently have 2 to 4 foot sidewalks in most of the area. So one of the points in this data I just want to call out is that it says that there isn't currently enough pedestrian support or pedestrian access right here to support the signalized traffic crossing, but I disagree with that. I kind of take the mindset on this specific point of if you build it, they will come. Because if you build a safe place for pedestrians to cross, they will cross. And I think one thing I really want to point out is
30 seconds.
we thought previously that this was a great place for pedestrians to cross, as we have the brick sidewalks here along that crossing distance. I know we've experienced some issues in other parts of the city where that brick crosswalk doesn't really adequately tell people, especially drivers, that pedestrians are allowed to cross here. So again, from my perspective as a pedestrian and an advocate for 23rd Street, I please ask for you to consider some sort of protected crossing or signalized crossing here at 23rd and Hudson. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir. If I could have your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name's Chad Whitehead. My address is 425 Northwest 23rd. I'm one of the owners of Tower Theater, and we have been waiting for pedestrian safety along 23rd Street since 2017 when Tower Theater opened or reopened. I've been to a lot of great parts of this city that also claim to be part of Route 66. There's a lot of routes. I've been to other cities that are part of Route 66. I completely appreciate that this is a very car-centric group of people, and Route 66 historically is a very car-centric motor speedway. However, I've been to other parts in our city and in other cities both things can be true. That it can be Route 66 in Gallup, New Mexico, but they could also have a crosswalk and give a rip about a family making it safely across Route 66 when not in a car. And since 2017, it feels like our community has called out for pedestrian safety over and over and over, and it has fallen on deaf ears. We've worked well with the city, who cares a lot, I know, in big picture, and we've had great people that we've worked with. Half Engineering has been fantastic to work with. But nevertheless, what the community actually wants along Northwest 23rd is just being disregarded purely because this body seems to care only about one set of data, and it's just cars moving from A to B. Well, cars moving to A to B is great. That's how our economy works. My economy also works by putting 10,000 people a month on foot along Northwest 23rd Street. Every single month, they are queuing down both sides of the street in the evenings while there is a toboggan of cars, 2 on each side of the lane, piling through. And there seems to be very little effort to control speed and very little effort to control if those cars are actually going to be instructed or encouraged to mindfully consider pedestrian safety. We asked for a road diet. We asked to go down to 1 lane like you've done in other districts like Britain, to slow the cars on purpose because we're creating a commercial, viable district for pedestrian safety. Why can't Northwest 23rd be considered in the same light? Both have extensions right off the freeway, but yet there's a different set of criteria that is expressed along Northwest 23rd. And whether it's a crosswalk here at Hudson or some other measure, I'm asking you as a business owner and someone who lives in that community to do something to seriously consider the safety of pedestrians along Northwest 23rd. I'm not talking about people like me who can pay attention and jump out of the road. I'm talking about people who have responsibly had a few drinks. I'm talking about people late at night. I'm talking about all the children that go to the church there on Sunday morning and go to school across the street. I'm talking about the elderly, and I'm talking about people who need wheelchairs and other assisted devices who currently can't even use one side of Northwest 23rd because it is completely ADA non-compliant. So if it's not this intersection and it's not this stoplight, then please find other measures to control cars and create more safety for the humans who live and work in this neighborhood. Thank you.
There it is. Okay. Anybody else want to speak on this item? I would like to just mention one thing, sir, if I might, especially as you're with Tower Theater, correct? If you recall, we were very receptive to put it in that mid-block walkway from the parking lot across the street to your place.
Right, you made us pay for it.
Well, please, well, Yes,
Get
sir.
on the record, I believe you made the landlords pay for it.
Well, that was all part of the deal to have it approved, but please understand that when we talk about traffic, we're talking about not only vehicles moving in and out and about, but everything that goes associated with it. Bikes were very active with it, along with the walkers, in my opinion. So I just wanted to mention that we did do something at that point for walkers to be able to get across the street. Thank you, sir. Okay, nobody else want to speak on this item? Staff, do you have input?
Well, you've got our comments before you. We'll just draw a few highlights for you. Northwest 23rd Street does function as a major arterial. It does carry just over 25,000 vehicles per day at last count. We've got a cross-street volume on Hudson Avenue of just over 1,000 vehicles per day. In looking at crash histories at the intersection, from January 1st of 22 through December 31st of 24, OCPD had records of 26 collisions at the intersection, and of these 26, 14 were of types that were considered correctable using signalized traffic control. And of the 14 correctable collisions, 6 involved vehicles making left turns from 23rd Street onto Hudson Avenue. The intersection was evaluated by Lee Engineering, who was hired by HAF, and earlier they had done a signal warrant analysis at Ollie Avenue and at Francis Avenue, and they'd also later done one over at Hudson. And they did their analysis using the 2009 version of the MUTCD. When we received this request, we reran the analysis using the new parameters in the 11th edition of the MUTCD. Lee's finding was that at the time that they did their analysis, it did not meet warrants for using signalized traffic control, and the current analysis using the 11th edition manual also found that this particular intersection at this point in time does not meet any of the criteria identified in the manual for using signalized traffic control. So other comments in the staff report are there before you. One thing we'll always note that should the commission consider approving a request for a signal, the applicant noted in her letter that turning access from 23rd Street onto Hudson Avenue was one of their concerns, and they were wanting to get a left turn signal for that movement. In order to accommodate the left turn signal, technically the best and safest and most efficient means of doing that is by the inclusion of a center left turn lane on 23rd Street at Hudson. And beyond that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the application.
All right. Can I have a motion concerning item 5A?
I move for approval with the addition of the left turn lane.
We have a motion to approve item 5A by Commissioner Littlefield to include staff recommendation of the left turn lanes. Do we have a second?
A second.
Seconded.
Oh, go for it.
You just let him have a second?
No.
Okay. All right. We have a second by Commissioner Martinez. Okay, do we have any talk on this item?
Quick question on this. So the traffic signal is consistent with the streetscape project that they're talking about then?
It's not currently designed into the streetscape that we will be sending to the state. So it will be an addition on behalf of the city before it goes to state to go to bid, hopefully this summer, is what I've heard last.
Okay. And was it not included because of it didn't meet warrant? Was that the reason?
You know, when we first were presented the streetscape, there was an initial traffic study that said we wanted to put an additional street light at Francis, which is near Dove Schools, down 23rd just a little bit. And basically, we asked several times, stakeholders asked several times early on in that process, can we add more lights? And kind of the strategic conversations that were had around that is no, because we can't afford them. So I think part of my consideration or our consideration really, for bringing this now to this commission is that it is the state that will be doing most of this construction and bidding for it. So we're hoping that we can get in all of the components that really would successfully make this streetscape benefit 23rd in the long term.
Okay. And to the gentleman's point here, I guess the question is, was a road diet considered for the streetscape?
Yeah, there was a plan that had a road diet with one lane on each side with turn lanes, but it was roundly presented and then immediately moved on from. And we were told this body would not allow that because it was a major arterial, even though 36th Street is right there. And so, yeah, we did see a plan for that, and we were told it wouldn't move forward, and there was no point.
And is it fair maybe to get our planning department to jump in on that point too? Sorry, Max.
Hi, Max Harris, Planning Department. You know, I wasn't too involved in the early conversations, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I know there was a lot of different community meetings and some different options presented. Half and Associates was the consultant, and so they had some different options, but I probably understand that the traffic counts are probably, you know, beyond capacity to consider a 3-lane option for the city to consider, but I can't say for sure what happened.
Okay, and if you wouldn't mind, with Half and Associates in the building, maybe they have some input on where that went in the analysis as well?
And ma'am, if I could have your name and address, and then fill out one of these when you're done, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Amanda Newberry, 2613 Southeast 94th Circle. I've worked on the 23rd Street project since I started at Half, and I have an understanding of the history just from researching and understanding from the coworkers that I've had. The signal at Hudson and 23rd was specifically not warranted, therefore it was left out. And I just want to give the commission an understanding of what would be involved if we add it at this stage. Right now we're at about 95% complete on the plans. And adding the signal by itself would have minimal impact. We've already evaluated to see if the signal would fit and the pedestrian buttons would fit within existing right-of-way, and they would. But the complication comes by adding the left turn lane. Of course, that's going to require additional right-of-way, and it would be a delay to the project. That would be up to the commission to decide whether you want to proceed that way. As far as the reduction in the lane diet, there was significant public involvement early stages of the project. There were multiple options presented. Stakeholders were invited as well as the public to these meetings, and we did meet with several one-on-one occurrences. And then ultimately it was decided that the 4-lane would be what would be carried forward with an intent to satisfy the Vision Zero and the pedestrian safety improvements by doing the curb bump outs. So you'll notice that the street return radii have been reduced to 15. That will allow a much shorter crossing distance for pedestrians and allow a safer distance just because there's less time that they're out in vehicular traffic. And then the sidewalks, as previously mentioned, were significantly widened, so there's a lot more refuge area for pedestrians that are ADA compliant paths that are significantly wider than what's out there today. I don't know if there are any other questions, but I'd be happy to answer.
Well, the only thing would be, it's such a tight area there. Is there room to make a third of that turn lane? I mean, physical room, or are we having a?
May I clarify something?
Yes, please.
The request for the left-hand turn lane on 23rd would be with a reduction to a 3-lane total roadway, not a 4-lane with an additional 5th lane for the center turning. So I think that might have gotten, mushed in there somewhere. But another specific left-hand turning support we were requesting from Hudson onto 23rd Street. So I don't know how that would be structured, but basically maybe like the one lane and then the second lane to turn right or whatever that looks like. So I understand, and I believe our stakeholders understand that at this point, as the half representative mentioned, we were given, two options really in the very beginning. Here's a 3-lane with a center turn lane, which was highly likable by a lot of people, and here's a 4-lane with no center turn lane. One of the main issues we continued running into was that 25,000 car count.
Right.
That is what basically pushed us into the 4-lane, we won't consider anything else. What I have been advocating for personally myself and several of the other stakeholders is that we do not think that is actually the end-all solution for the area. And rather, if we could re-envision the whole thing again, it would be maybe options that are a 4-lane in some places, but ideally in this higher traffic pedestrian commercialized area, it would be 3 lanes with a center turn lane and even support, if we could, protected bike lanes, things like this. So the issue of 23rd being a 3-lane with a center turn lane or a 4-lane all the way through was really ruled out very early on in the process to quite a few people's dismay. So in advocating for a center turn lane now, I recognize it might be beyond scope to do that, but I would not be an advocate for a 5-lane road with the center turn lane. So if push comes to shove, I do think it would be most effective to just have the 2 lanes either direction with signalized crossing supporting pedestrians and stopping traffic.
What is part of the plan for Walker and 23rd? Is it going to be 4-lane, no left turn lane? So it would be consistent with what you're asking without the turn lane, correct, at Hudson?
Currently, we haven't seen, we have seen the design plans, but do you know, Max, you might know. I don't know if there's a left-hand turn lane added to Walker, but I know that conversation has been very high in that regard, wanting that to be that direction. But as of right now, the actual 23rd Street on Walker is still the 4 lanes. But again, if we could advocate for 3, that's the idea.
Okay, yes, please.
Maybe just to clarify, yeah, I don't think that there is going to be an added turn lane on 23rd at Walker, but to your point, I think there are other pedestrian enhancements, and they might be compromised if you were to add a left turn lane too, like the bump outs and stuff. So I think that's probably a reason why you may not want to do a 5-lane section there. So yeah, I think these are all just things we kind of have to weigh the pros and cons of, right?
Rob, would you be willing to, rescind and remove the turn lane requirement for that street, or what's your thought?
Yeah, but I was under the understanding that that was facilitating Hudson.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that.
Can we get clarification on if that turn lane is on Hudson or if it's on 23rd Street?
Well, I can read the section of the applicant's letter regarding the request. Okay, so there's a section in Ms. Banks' letter to the city, which was dated from back in July of 2024, and it reads, organizing traffic flow, preventing chaotic situations where vehicles might turn or proceed through an intersection unexpectedly, giving designated crossing at turning times. Traffic lights prevent pedestrians from entering traffic when it's unsafe. This reduces the risk of pedestrians being struck by vehicles. The Hudson and 23rd intersection features many restaurants that are accessed by the neighborhoods regularly. A light at this intersection provides a predictable flow of traffic and discourages reckless left-hand turning by allowing drivers to turn left at designated times. So the way that this is, and the way the header for that particular section of the letter reads, an additional light at Northwest 23rd and North Hudson would ease congestion and confusion and would support safe pedestrian crossing and safe left-hand turns. So since turning from the side street from Hudson across 23rd Street, there's only basically a single lane on the Hudson Avenue approaches. It's a much lower volume roadway, so conflicting turning movements is typically not an issue. Now, turning from 23rd Street onto Hudson, that's where you would probably run into more conflicts. And the crash history we have indicated that the only left-hand turns that we had that were related to this intersection were from turns from drivers on 23rd Street attempting to turn onto Hudson.
Okay, because in the recommendations it says dedicated east and westbound left turn lanes on Northwest 23rd Street for safer access on North Hudson, which is not what you were thinking as you made the recommendation, correct? Okay. So I just want to clarify that point before we move forward on what's part of this.
I'm willing to rescind that and add to that that there would be no left turn, eastbound or westbound at Hudson if you're on 23rd Street.
No left turn signal. There would be a left turn.
Sure, there can be a left turn, but no left
Correct,
turn.
no left turn signal.
Yeah.
Correct,
Just passive.
yes.
So just to throw it out from past, when we put a new intersection on a 4-lane road, and we talk about left turns at that intersection, we always recommend a 5th lane so we could cue people in there, because technically then if one person wants to turn left, then it backs up that whole 2nd lane. So that's why it's always been a recommendation from the staff to us to put in a 5th lane at these type of intersections.
Correct, but this is very much a town center situation that is going to be narrowed by the sidewalks coming in. It's going to be slower traffic coming through. The way it's not going to be a road diet per se, but it is going to be a lot more like Northwestern, where it's hugged by the sidewalk, so it feels slower, so people are going slower through there. However, there's not space. We would have to, as the HAF representative said, we would have to get additional right-of-way to be able to put in left turn signals at that point.
Right.
There is no left turn signal 1 block down to turn left onto Walker from either direction. So this would be consistent with what is on 23rd Street already. I feel comfortable moving forward without knowing what the streetscape is and knowing what the issues are in that area. I feel like this is the best solution for that area without having to knock on neighbors' doors and saying, we're going to take away your entire front sidewalk so that we can make a left turn lane.
Could you go, what's the data on Hudson? And I know 23rd was 23,000.
Yeah, our approach volume, or traffic entering volume on Hudson Avenue is just over 1,100 vehicles per day. And on 23rd Street, it's 25,137 at last count.
So I'm going to throw out something just for a talk here. Is there any, in the past, anywhere you've seen of a crossing at an intersection that's activated by a button which makes a red light so people could cross? And then it activates it back. And not a signal light, but a walking light like we did in front of Tower.
Oh, just for pedestrian crossing purposes?
Yes. Is that something that's a possibility in what can be done?
Well, it's possible, but traffic control like that would need to be at a location away from the intersection.
So not at the intersection?
Correct.
We don't do that.
Right, because then you would have a situation where you're actually mixing signalized traffic control on 2 approaches and stop control on another.
Okay.
And that's a cardinal sin under the MUTCD.
No, that's why I was just asking, because the problem is people crossing, not Hudson coming on, per se. So I was just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you for the counsel on that. All right, so yes, sir.
A lot going on here. It's really important, I believe, from my point of view, for everybody to understand that this commission is about every way that people move. It is not just about cars. I'm one of those that is very outspoken. I will accommodate a person before I'll accommodate a vehicle any day. Another interesting characteristic of this area is that we did apply a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone there a few years ago, in addition to this mid-block crosswalk. And we're getting reports all the time that people are disobeying the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. I'm a believer that the more obstacles that can be installed that will interact negatively with vehicles' willingness to be prioritized, it satisfies pedestrians in a much safer way. I think that this is a perfect application here, and I support it completely. I know it's unusual, but cars should be going 25 miles an hour. People should be going slower. We shouldn't be building and creating more chaos for pedestrians by accommodating efficiency for vehicles in this location, is my point of view. If you're going 25 miles an hour and you want to turn left at an intersection that doesn't have a designated left turn lane, sorry, it's not designed for that. That's not the purpose of this area, in my opinion.
Okay, so if nobody else has any comments, we have a recommendation by Commissioner Cornett to our, to the person that moved on this motion. Do you want to modify your motion?
Yeah, I tried a little bit ago. I want to rescind the requirement of a center left turn lane installation.
So it's just basic to approve item 5A.
Yes,
Okay?
exactly.
And your second, are you okay with that, sir? Okay, he does do a second. Any other comments on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5A by Commissioner Littlefield, seconded by Commissioner Martinez. Your votes, please. You need to make sure. Mr. Nguyen, could you help? Okay, item has passed with 5 in favor and, I'm sorry, it was 2 opposed, I believe. There it is. Yep, 5 in favor, 2 opposed. All right, thank you. We go on now to item 5B, Rodney and Elizabeth Ebach, all-way stop control at South Harrow Road and Southeast 104th Street. Do we have anybody here to speak on this item? Okay, staff, you have input?
All right, you got comments before you. When we reviewed this intersection, you can see that the traffic volumes on Harrow Road and Southeast 104th Street are very disparate. We've got a 6,476 vehicle count per day on Harrow Road, which has got a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, and Southeast 104th Street, which the only public approach is on the west side, has got a traffic entering volume of 300 vehicles per day. There have been 2 collisions at the intersection from January 2022 through December of 2024. When we did our warrant analysis to determine whether or not this location was suitable for all-way stop control, we found that it didn't meet any of the current MUTCD criteria for using all-way stop at this particular location. There aren't any decision site distance conditions that need to be addressed. There aren't any other safety mitigation conditions which could be considered when reviewing this particular application. And it's for that reason, staff did not have reason to support the request for all-way stop control at this particular intersection. Although we do note that all-way stop controlled intersections are common and not unexpected at rural section line road intersections in Oklahoma City. So from a traffic control consistency standpoint, the use of an all-way stop at this intersection would not necessarily violate driver expectation. So action is going to be at the discretion of the commission. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on the application.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
Motion to deny item 5B.
We have a motion by Commissioner Varnell to disapprove item 5B. Do we have a second?
Jeremy, speak up.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Carnes. Any discussion on this item? Seeing as it's my ward, I'll go ahead and talk about it. I went out there and yes, Harrow Road, traffic is moving. It was moving pretty good, 55 miles an hour, a good amount of traffic. And while I was there for about 15 minutes, there was 2 cars that came to the intersection, and within 10, 15 seconds, they were able to pull out. And that was mid to late morning kind of time. So I do agree with the motion to disapprove. Any other discussion on this item? Okay, we have a motion to disapprove by Commissioner Varnell, seconded by Commissioner Carnes. We have your votes, please. For the new guys, remember you're voting to disapprove. Even the old guys. All right, the item has been disapproved. All in favor of disapproving it? To be disapproved. All right. All right, we go on now to item 5C. Cody Pistuka, AIA Miller Architecture. Full-time commercial loading zone on the north side of Northwest 8th Street from approximately 225 feet east to 300 feet east of the east curb line of North Lee Avenue. Sir, if I could have your name and address, you got 5 minutes.
And correct pronunciation.
That's right. Yeah, Cody Pistolka, 11 Northwest 10th Street, Suite 100, Oklahoma City. So briefly, this is the new bulk oxygen storage system for the SSM St. Anthony's Midtown campus. The current location, it has an on-street loading zone. The equipment's no longer viable, so we are replacing it. And really our question and concern based on the staff report is the mention of this being a publicly accessible loading zone. If this were to be blocked, it could be a danger to patient safety, especially in the event of low oxygen. And so we wanted to get everybody's thoughts on the possibility of this being reserved exclusively for the use by the hospital because of the health and safety concerns, given that this serves the entire hospital campus.
Well, let me just ask, is there any other facilities around there that might want to use it compared to Will or?
Currently, I mean, there's not much on 8th Street. So just the concern is that if it invites somebody where we're not allowed to post a sign or something discouraging people from parking there, that it makes it more likely that this could be blocked. It's a very quiet street. That's one of the...
As a loading zone, then there's a time limit or something, is that correct?
Okay. By this application being for a full-time loading zone, the way that the signs that we will install will read across the top, they'll say no parking, and then it'll just say commercial loading only.
Okay.
So from as Mr. Pistolka mentioned, the area on the opposite side of 8th Street is pretty much all residential. There are no other uses or land uses which would probably even think about using a lay-by like this.
Right.
But
That's what I was kind of asking is, if there were 3 other companies or something there that would say, oh, wow, geez, I could pull my truck in there and start unloading and doing everything. That's what I was bringing up.
Yeah,
So
I
there's
think right
nothing.
now the main concern would be, just a lawn crew or if somebody would pull up, we just want to make sure that it doesn't get blocked.
And that's nothing and we never do that, correct? Having a loading zone that's restricted to one customer?
That's true. Yeah, as long as the loading zones in the public right-of-way, then they're always freely available. But as far as, I would find it unlikely, and if there is ever a time when somebody did pull into it and left a vehicle or something like that, police department could be contacted to have it cleared.
So yeah, parking, but yeah, as long as it's used for loading and unloading only.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think we do that. Okay. All right. Anything else, sir, do you have?
No, I think we've got a representative from SSM here as well.
Okay.
that would like to-
Sir. If I could have your name and address, you have up to 5 minutes, sir.
Barry Haynes. I am with, the address is 1000 North Lee Avenue. I'm with SSM Health St. Anthony Hospital and asking the Traffic Commission to exclude public parking here, public unloading or loading in this area for the very reason of what we're talking about. We're talking about oxygen. We're talking about the delivery of oxygen to a facility. We have 785 beds that require, oxygen to be there by code. We have 15 surgery rooms. We have 40 emergency rooms. We have 72 beds of ICU. And God forbid we ever foresee another pandemic where we're receiving oxygen on a daily basis. I would never want to be in a situation where I don't have access to be able to offload oxygen to a healthcare facility. So we'd ask for your consideration on this motion. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we'll go ahead and go with normal staff input, and then we'll talk later.
Right, I was about to say, you got our comments before you. The application is appropriate for the type of use that they're seeking. Like, as it was noted earlier, this will be a full-time commercial loading zone for the purposes of bulk oxygen loading. Any signs that we install will indicate no parking, so that should keep the chances of this being misused down to a minimum, if at all. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the application.
I support that application, but I'm curious about enforcement. You mentioned that it would be a 911 call, and then what would happen if an officer arrived at that location and there was a vehicle unattended parked there? Would it be immediately towed, or would it just be ticketed, or how would that work?
So it depends on if it's private or public property. If it's private property, then we can't necessarily enforce it per se. If it's public property, then yes, we could actually do it and impound it, et cetera. If it's private property, we give the business owner, who the responsible party is, the opportunity to do a state impound on that vehicle. But again, if it's blocking the flow of traffic or the unloading zone, yes, we would contact someone from traffic to come and impound the vehicle.
Okay, any other questions before we go to recommendation?
Is there any opportunity to just put for hospital use as part of the loading zone only? I mean, just an opportunity. Like, if another hospital comes in across the street, great, let them use it too. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But is there any kind of opportunity for that?
If the hospital were to install its own signs outside the public right-of-way, they'd be welcome to do that. But as far as the city installing signs that assign the use of a public zone for the exclusive use of one particular party, that's not something that we're able to do.
So if we could go to the map that one, yeah, compare it to the aerial map that this is, right, that you have right there. So right now that blue is not there, right? It's just grass. That's correct. And what's on the road right now is just regular parallel parking. And so we're going to create a loading zone area. Now, are these trucks going to go all the way in? Well, sir, if you come up to the mic, thank you.
No, the truck will just pull up parallel to the equipment, so facing to the west. Yeah, just like in the illustration there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's what it's going to look like.
Yep.
Okay, so there's the truck that pulls up.
Yeah.
And it just runs a line in or something?
Yeah, connects to the tanks, yes.
And just for clarification on that drawing, the yellow is fully on public right-of-way?
All the way up to the bollards?
The bollards are, I believe, on private property. Yeah, that's part of our scope of the project.
I guess I'm saying, like, if the yellow was just slightly on private, is there a different opportunity on that side?
As far as signage?
Sure.
Yeah, I was about to say, anything beyond the public right-of-way would be something that the hospital could take care of signing.
Okay.
So, but where that truck was parked, if that was some other vehicle that shouldn't be there, or could be there, if they were loading or unloading, that would be public land right there, is what we're all agreeing on. Then it goes to the bollards, and that's their property.
Correct, yes.
So your concern is one of those vehicles pull up, there's something there that's loading and unloading for some other reason, could even be a hospital reason. Somebody could pull in there.
A vendor or somebody, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would then call and say, hey, we got to get this vehicle loaded or unloaded. And you would ask them, but if they're loading and unloading, then they could use it. And if they're a hospital, then they could use it. So I'm just throwing out there, even if you say hospital use only, somebody else that's there loading and unloading for the hospital could use it. And how many trucks come in?
So Barry, right now it's once per week, right?
Yeah.
We're currently receiving a delivery every 3 days.
Every-
Or in the event of an emergency, a pandemic, we're receiving it every day.
Every day? And
Yes,
and what time do they usually come
They're
in?
typically done between midnight and 3 a.m. Unless
So-
in the event of an emergency, they could be delivered at any time. You know,
Right.
all of this is through GPS signaling, that our bulk oxygen tank is low and it requests a delivery, and they schedule a delivery accordingly.
So these things are usually in the early mornings, midnight to 3 o'clock,
That's correct, usually.
usually. But of course, in a pandemic world,
That's correct.
you might need more.
That's correct.
And that's every 3 days at that time,
Every 3 days. Currently, at this time, it's every 3 days.
okay?
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for the information.
you.
Okay, so any other pre-comments before we get to a motion? Okay? All right, can I have a motion concerning item 5C?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve 5C by Commissioner Wynn. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Second by Commissioner Martinez. Any further discussion on this item? Okay. We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Wynn, seconded by Commissioner Martinez. And we're ready to vote in just a second. I think it's me. That was my problem this time. All right, here we go. Item has passed with all 7 in favor. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, we go on now to comments from citizens. Anybody have anything to say out there? Nothing? Okay. Now we go to reports and other items. We'll go to Commissioner Varnell.
None for me, thanks.
Commissioner Littlefield.
None for me.
Okay, Commissioner Carnes.
None for me.
Commissioner Martinez.
None from me.
Okay, go to Commissioner Wynn.
Nothing, thanks.
Commissioner Cornett.
I got something to say.
Ah.
I'm just kidding.
Either you or Rob.
No, I just wanted.
We were that close.
To say thank you all for being here last month, even though I wasn't able to be here, to listen to the Vision Zero presentation. It's actually going before City Council for approval on Tuesday. So if you might tune in and watch what's going on there. You're welcome to join us as we present that as well. Not me. I won't be doing that. But yeah, if you have any questions, you know where to find me.
The only comment I have is thanks to the Public Works people out there. The previous storms that we had, and as you noticed when you came into town, the roads are already pre-treated, getting ready for tomorrow. You know, just a quarter inch or a tenth of an inch with a little bit of snow on top is going to shut the city down with all our bridges, et cetera. So thanks to Public Works and their 12-hour, 24-hour shift schedule that they do and what they do to try to make it okay for us. And a lot of times that can't happen, but they're out there trying. So just want to say thanks to all of them. Anybody else have any, well, let me go here. Captain, you got anything, sir?
I do not.
Okay. Counselor, in the last minute? No, sir. Okay. Staff? Okay. Anybody else have anything for the commission? All right, we're adjourned. Good job.